it's Shireen Vishmaya in San Francisco, California, and I am getting ready to head off to Marrakesh in the morning. But first, before I leave California, I wanted to make a last video update of 2018 before I'm in another country, because there's so much happening. And I actually just got back from the Sedona Vedic Astrology Conference last week, and I got really inspired by all of the teachers and students there. And I've been thinking a lot. I actually did a class on Lord Shani, Saturn, and some of you may know me as half of the Saturn sisters. I write the column for LUK and Loft. So if you're interested in daily, weekly, or monthly horoscopes, you can check that out. But anyway, I had a wonderful time teaching there, and it had me thinking a lot about Saturn, and today is Saturn's day as I'm making the video. And the moon is with Saturn today, so we're kind of in this interesting, sobering period. This kind of, you can really feel the Saturn after this very Sagittarius ingress that we just had recently, where it's like suddenly, I always notice during Sagittarius periods or phases, I don't know about you, but it's like overload. Suddenly, like there's just so much to do, and it's hard to keep up with everything during Sagittarius cycle. So you may be noticing that you're at max capacity right now. And so it's really important to take time out, to slow down, to make sure you're not biting off more than you can chew, and that you have your schedule broken down into bite-sized pieces in a way, or just a way that you can actually handle it or manage it. I've been really obsessed with the Pomodoro technique recently. I think I posted it on something, probably Instagram, that this technique is just like completely saved the day for me during Sagittarius season, which is chunking your tasks into 25-minute segments so that you really focus, you cut out all distractions, and you just set a goal for 25 minutes. And then when you set an alarm, and when those 25 minutes are up, you take a break, you walk around, you do all your distraction things, you can check your social media, you can just, do some yoga, you can breathe, you can have a nice beverage or three, if you're like me, or you can just, walk your dog, something to just like break up the brain pattern so you're not doing that focused task work. And then after the break, you can go back and do another 25-minute Pomodoro segment. And it's so helpful, and you get so much done. So I definitely recommend that. And the other thing that I have been really feeling during this Sagittarius season, especially, so we're just coming off of the new moon in Sag, the dark moon, which was Friday. At least it was like late Thursday night on the West Coast, but we felt it really more on Friday in terms of starting this new Sagittarius cycle. It really initiates that. And Jupiter, of course, just went into Sagittarius. So we're heading into a new Jupiter in Sagittarius year. And I feel we're going to start to feel that more. It hasn't quite kicked in, that energy. It's just starting. I mean, Mercury's still really stuck in Scorpio. Got my Scorpio vintage pendant on that a dear friend gave me. I love this pendant. And Venus, of course, is in Scorpio. So there's a lot of Scorpio energy, and there's a lot of fixed energy right now. And with that Mercury kind of still stuck, he hasn't really gotten momentum yet, we're probably noticing that communication feels stuck, our brains feel a little stuck. It's just kind of hard to get traction right now, but that'll start to change. But in the meantime, a lot of people have told me over the last few weeks that they've been really dealing with a lot of inner demons, and like just a lot of obsessions, fears, insecurities, just depression, negativity, moods, things like that. So I think a lot of that has to do with that combination of still processing the very tail end of the Venus retrograde cycle, because she hasn't completely come out of her retrograde shadow. That happens on the 17th. And then Mercury being so stuck at those late degrees of Scorpio can tend to dredge up a lot of, I made this post on Instagram about the resentment files, I called them, and it was a room like overflowing with these files all crashing down. And so the Scorpio part of our brain sometimes can build up like it's like a good detective and a good psychologist in one, which can be a dangerous combo when you let your mind go too much to work and you start to keep track of all the wrongs that have been done to you and all the betrayals and all the resentments that can build up. And there can be a lot of files. Like, you don't have to be a Scorpio sun, moon, or rising to feel it. If you have Mercury in Scorpio or you have other planets in Scorpio, you can be really sensitive to other people's energy, other people's transgressions against you, or other people you love. Scorpios are really protective of people they love, and they've got really strong BS meters, detectors. So sometimes things can get built up. So, and I have a lot of Scorpio, so I can definitely tell you personally, like, I've had to learn to express things as they come up and to have the difficult conversations and not let emotions build up, not let resentments build up. So, and to have a lot of outlets physically for energy, so you don't let it get pent up, because it's fixed water. So you want to allow the feelings to flow and not allow resentments to build up, and have the difficult conversations if you need to as things arise. So with Mercury stationing right there, probably a lot of old material, maybe old psychological material, a lot of insights too, a lot of really deep penetrating insights are probably coming to the surface now as Mercury's beginning to move forward. There's a lot of deep truths and a lot of insights into what we will and will not tolerate moving forward, because Saturn's also quite strong right now, and it's all about boundary setting, it's all about integrity. And with the Scorpio piece of it, I feel like if we have felt betrayed, or we do start to notice when something is lacking in authenticity or in emotional honesty, I think is a good way to put it for Scorpio. If something's lacking in emotional honesty, Scorpios, even though they're a very loyal sign, if they feel like a certain line is crossed, a certain line of trust has been broken, that's it. I mean, it's like, it is the sign of death. So it might take a lot to get to that point, but once the trust is really broken, or the respect is broken, or betrayal is too deep, that will be the end of it. So it could be bringing up old betrayals or old kind of lines in the sand that you've drawn, and just looking at your patterns in terms of how you process psychologically those emotional situations that have caused you to either create walls or protection within yourself, or defense mechanisms, or perhaps, ways that you don't allow yourself to become more vulnerable in certain situations, because Scorpio is a very self-protective sign. All the water signs, except for Pisces, I would say, Pisces has it too, but Pisces does it more through escapism. But Cancer has a protective shell, and Scorpio has the stinger as a protection, kind of like, if Scorpios feel threatened, they will kind of go for we're known to go for the jugular when we feel threatened. So you might notice that regardless of your sign. You might notice those energies getting triggered where you feel a little more self-protective right now, and you're more aware of those situations, people, places that you need to be really discerning about, and you probably have less tolerance to put up with certain situations or behaviors from other people, and realizing like you deserve, I feel during this time, like with Venus coming out of a retrograde shadow, we're looking at like the people that we choose to surround ourselves with, the people we invest in, because Scorpio is also a sign of investment, emotional investment. Taurus is more the actual monetary, physical investment, but Scorpio is more about the emotional investment. Who and what we're going to invest in emotionally. There's a saying in relationship counseling, like, don't invest more. You don't. I mean, I'm not a relationship specialist, so I'm probably botching this up a little bit. But the idea of like, you try to meet the person, in the relationship, versus you don't, like, just like you wouldn't in anything else. Like, you wouldn't just throw everything into a pot if the other person you're in a contract with was just putting in a little bit. So you want to feel like both people are mutually investing in each other. And you're probably more aware of that right now, I think, with Venus coming out of, her Scorpio shadow. So that's one issue. And another issue with Venus coming out of the retrograde shadow is looking at how you value yourself. Looking how do you feel valued, but usually the relationship is just going to reflect back to you how you feel about yourself and your own self-worth and value. So a lot of that is coming to the light right now, how you can, what you find valuable, how you value yourself. They also talk in this relationship counseling, I hear this talk about being of high value, like being someone of high value. So that means you have a very full life, you value your time, you live your life in a way that shows you value yourself, and you value your time, and your time is valuable. So you don't just throw it away. You don't just, dismiss, disregard, undermine what's precious to you. Like, you really value what it is that you're invested in, and hopefully that means investing in yourself, because otherwise, how are you going to have a relationship reflecting that? And I feel this Venus retrograde journey that we just went through really took us into the shadow elements of that, of having to look at maybe where we've abandoned ourselves, or where we've taken the, it's really our responsibility to heal a lot of those childhood wounds. And we've had to look at maybe where we've projected some of our pain onto our relationships, or onto our partners, or onto those we are closest with. And having to return back to ourselves and look at, okay, so how are we partnering with ourselves? What do we value at the deepest level? And are we showing up for that? How do we show up? We can't get upset with those people in our lives closest to us for not showing up, if we're not showing up for ourselves in the way we want to. So it all starts with ourselves, and to remember that it is really a reflection. Relationships are a mirror for us. They are a reflection. So a lot of that's coming up right now to be processed on a deeper level. The other thing that's happening is, with Mercury now coming out of retrograde, Mercury's going to go back into Sag, which is where he started the retrograde cycle. So I feel whatever we started, the awareness we started with, we're going to have a deeper sense of that truth. And moving from Scorpio to Sag, since we've been in this, it's kind of like moving from the death archetype and all that death rebirth energy into Temperance, which is the alchemy of the experience. We're able to take all of the lessons and all of the losses and alchemize, put it in the alembic and alchemize it, so that we can turn, I love that expression, it's from a Tool song, I keep quoting Tool a lot lately, the leaden grudges into gold. It's from the Saturn song, from The Grudge, but that's alchemy, and Saturn is the great alchemist. Going back to the beginning of the discussion, Saturn is the great alchemist in astrology. So how we transmute those energies of resentment and fear and insecurity and self-protection, that's the process we're in right now. How do we transmute that energy and turn it into gold? And we do that through our most intimate relationships, and ultimately to the relationship with ourselves, and through a lot of meditation, self-reflection, journaling. I always recommend. I'm going to be starting a new Project 40. It starts January 1st, devoted to Jupiter. It's the 40th Project 40. And I'm very excited because it's dedicated to the Guru planet, 40 days and 40 nights of living with Jupiter. And so I'm going to be trying to invoke, my goal, or my intention, my vision is to invoke the higher teachings of Jupiter. But I have a sense that it's going to be about looking at all of the teachers in my life. I'm going to be sharing like some of my favorite teachings from all my favorite teachers in my life over the 40 days, which is going to be very exciting. And I'm going to be in India when it starts, so I'll be with my actual beloved Satguru, so obviously her teachings will be in there. And I'll be having more about that on my website coming up very soon. There's just so much going on, but I'm going to get that up there before the new year. And yeah, let me see, is there anything else that I wanted to talk about? I feel like there was so much, but also it is like 2 in the morning as I'm making this video, because I'm trying to stay up for my flight. Let's see, Mercury, Venus. What are the other big things? Oh, the last thing I wanted to talk about is the full moon coming at the end of the month, which is going to initiate the eclipse season for January, which is pretty heavy duty, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I'll make a video for that when I get overseas. But this next big full moon in Cancer, I think that's a huge energy that we're going to start to feel building up now, because we've got the North Node in Cancer. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. That reminds me. So yes, the grand water trine that's happening in the sky right now between Chiron in Pisces, who is stationing tomorrow, that's a big deal, with the North Node in Cancer, and then Mercury in Scorpio. So there's this confluence between all these watery planets right now, these planets in water signs. So there's a lot of potential for emotional healing. It's quite an emotional, sensitive time. And again, I think to find the flow between your feelings rather than bottling things up, repressing, or getting into self-protection mechanisms are most helpful. Chiron stationing on Sunday can definitely trigger a lot of our deepest emotional abandonment wounds. So if you're feeling abandoned, you're feeling extra sensitive or needy, or just wherever you have felt victimized in the past could be coming up in a major way with this Chiron station. So be extra gentle with yourself. I almost forgot to say that because I did a class last night at the Scarlet Sage herb company called the Priestess Path, and we were talking a lot about the Chiron. So this is the problem. Sometimes when you teach too much, you can't remember what, you've said it and then you forget it. And I want to make sure I share it here on this forum as well, because the Chiron station is really powerful and really quite emotional, actually. So we're definitely going to need, I was saying last night that I recommend getting as much body work or acupuncture or cranial sacral or yoga, meditation, floating, if you can float in one of those float tanks, or just being near the ocean or the water, listening to music that's soothing, all the good Pisces remedies for Sunday. So I'm going to get this up before Sunday. It's actually, I guess technically it's already Sunday morning, but so we're going into that Chiron station. So that's a good note to end on. And I will be back with the full moon forecast in Cancer. So thank you so much for watching my channel, and please subscribe if you haven't already, if you like the videos. And